What if the one thing you've always felt but never dared to say out loud, the quiet suspicion that something is fundamentally wrong with your life, was actually the most important truth about your existence? What if the reason you felt disconnected, misaligned, out of place, or strangely aware of patterns no one else seems to notice, is because your consciousness has already started waking up from a reality that was never designed for your awareness? Pause for a moment. Don't look around with your eyes. They only show you the surface of things. Look with the part of you that feels, the part that senses vibration even when nothing is moving, the part that picks up on frequency before you can explain why, the part that notices the hidden architecture behind your experiences, the part that knows something deeper is happening to you. Have you felt it lately? The world shifting in ways you can't quite describe. Your intuition suddenly louder, sharper, the same numbers repeating, the same thoughts cycling back, the same emotion rising from somewhere deep inside your subconscious mind. That's not randomness, that's not coincidence. That is the field, the quantum field, pressing against the edges of your awareness, trying to break through the illusion you were taught to believe. For your entire life, you were conditioned to accept a version of reality that is linear, predictable and external. A world where events happen to you, where consciousness is passive, where life is nothing more than a sequence of cause and effect. But something inside you has always resisted that script. Something in you refuses the idea that this is all there is. Something in you recognizes the presence of a hidden reality beneath the one everyone else seems content to accept. That something is your quantum consciousness, the part of you that cannot be lied to, the part of you that perceives truth through vibration instead of logic. Most people feel this shift and immediately suppress it. They blame stress, anxiety, sleepless nights. They tell themselves they're imagining things. They ignore the signs, the synchronicities, the strange pressure in the chest that feels like a message trying to rise. But you didn't ignore it. You couldn't. Because once awareness begins to expand, you cannot shrink back into the person you were before. You felt the crack, the glitch, the moment where the simulation flickered, just enough for you to see through it. Suddenly, time doesn't feel the same. People don't feel the same. You don't feel the same. It's as if the version of you who once accepted the limits of this world is dissolving, and something far more conscious, far more ancient, is emerging from inside you. Your emotions have been unpredictable because they're not malfunctions, they're signals. Your questions have been growing louder because the mind can't protect you from truths the soul is ready to see. Your restlessness is not instability. It's the beginning of your spiritual awakening, the early vibration of a deeper intelligence moving through you. And if any part of you has ever sensed that you were meant for something more, if life has ever felt like a thin veil stretched over a deeper, hidden reality, then you are exactly where you need to be right now. Because the truth is this: the reality you've been living in is not solid. It is not fixed. It is not separate from you. It is a projection of your internal vibration, shaped by the frequencies stored in your subconscious mind, responding to the emotions you buried long before you knew they mattered. You didn't find this video by chance. You were guided here by resonance. Your frequency aligned with this moment because your soul is ready to remember something it has been trying to show you for years. And what you're about to hear will not just challenge what you believe. It will reveal why your life has been shifting in ways you can no longer ignore, why your inner world has been stirring, and why the universe chose this exact moment to bring you here. And if you're still here listening with that quiet awareness that only shows up when something true is speaking to you, then take a moment to ground yourself in this experience. What you're feeling right now, this resonance in your chest, this shift in perception, this subtle expansion, is part of a larger movement happening inside you. And movements like this grow stronger when they are shared, when they're acknowledged, when they're spoken into existence. So before we continue, I want to ask you for something simple and intentional. If this message has already made you think differently, if it has stirred something in your subconscious mind, or brought clarity to a feeling you've been trying to understand, consider supporting this space. Leave a comment, even if it's just a single phrase that reflects your journey. I am awakening, or I feel the shift, is enough to signal where you are on your path. Your comment doesn't just help the channel, it helps others recognize that they're not alone in what they're experiencing. And if this content aligns with your inner work, with your expansion of consciousness, and your desire to understand the deeper layers of reality, feel free to like this video and subscribe, not out of urgency or pressure, but because every time this community grows, more people gain access to the kind of knowledge that can truly shift the way they see themselves and the world. Engagement here isn't a transaction. It's part of building a collective field where awakening becomes easier for everyone who steps into it. Now take a breath, settle into your awareness, and stay with me. Because what comes next goes even deeper into the truth behind what you've been feeling, something that has been calling you quietly from beneath the noise of everyday life, waiting for the moment you were finally ready to notice. He began to notice it on nights when the world felt unusually still, when his thoughts seemed to stretch beyond the edges of his own mind. At first it was subtle, barely noticeable shifts in his environment that he dismissed as imagination. A picture frame tilting on its own, a light flickering at the exact moment an uncomfortable emotion surfaced, a conversation with a stranger that mirrored a thought he had moments earlier. But the more he paid attention, the harder it became to deny that something in the field around him was responding, not to his words, not to his logic, but to the vibration beneath them. His perception expanded, and with that expansion came a realization that shattered everything he thought he knew. Reality was not fixed. It was fluid, alive, and in constant conversation with his consciousness. He was not a scientist in a lab. He was an ordinary man confronting an extraordinary truth. Every deep emotion he suppressed, every belief he carried in silence, every memory stored in his subconscious mind was shaping the world around him. The quantum field wasn't something out there. It was interwoven with him, reacting to the frequency he broadcasted without speaking a word. And as this awareness grew, he began to test it. He noticed that when he shifted from fear to clarity, events around him instantly reorganized. When he held gratitude, opportunities appeared without effort. When he fell back into old patterns, the same circumstances repeated like a loop. That was the moment he understood. His life was not happening to him. His life was happening from him. This is why certain experiences keep returning to you as well, not as punishment, but as reflection. Your emotional patterns imprint themselves onto the field, and the field mirrors your vibration back. When you change your internal state, your external world begins to rearrange itself. This is not wishful thinking. It is the mechanics of perception and consciousness interacting with the reality you see. Nothing becomes solid until you observe it. Nothing stabilizes until your energy does. And the reason your life has felt unsettled lately is because your frequency is shifting faster than the structures around you can keep up. The old reality is trying to hold on, even as your awareness pulls you beyond it. If you've had moments where the world feels strangely synchronized with your thoughts, or where your intuition seems to predict events before they happen, understand that you are not imagining it. These are signs of awakening, indicators that your consciousness is expanding beyond the limits of the programmed world. And this space exists so you don't have to move through that awakening alone. If this resonates with what you've felt, consider supporting this community in a conscious way. Leave a comment, even a simple yes if you've experienced these shifts. Like the video if this aligns with your inner understanding. Subscribe if you want to keep exploring the deeper layers of consciousness with people who feel the same call you do. None of this is about metrics. It's about strengthening the field we are all part of, allowing these ideas to reach the people who are searching for them but don't know where to begin. And as you take this in, remember that these experiences are only the first cracks in a much larger transformation. There is a deeper layer behind all of this, one that reveals itself only when you begin to see your reality, not as a rigid structure, but as something alive, responsive, and shaped by your vibration. And it's in the next part of this journey that you'll begin to understand why everything in your life has been shifting the way it has. He started noticing that the more he questioned his own perception, the more reality seemed to bend around the questions themselves. It wasn't his thoughts that shifted the environment. It was the emotional frequency beneath them. The quantum field didn't respond to words or ideas. It responded to vibration. It responded to the energy stored in his subconscious mind, to the emotions he tried to outrun, to the memories that shaped the lens through which he saw the world. And that was the shocking part. So much of his life had been created automatically, shaped not by conscious intention, but by old feelings buried so deeply he barely remembered where they came from. Every rejection, every wound, every fear he refused to face had quietly become part of his internal programming, and the field reflected that programming back to him with absolute precision. That's why the same patterns repeated, not because fate was cruel, but because the subconscious was louder than his conscious desires. When fear lived inside him, fear appeared around him. When he expected disappointment, the universe mirrored it. When he shifted into clarity, even for a moment, reality cracked open long enough for him to see what was truly happening. He wasn't trapped in the world. He was trapped in the frequency he carried, and the same is happening within you. The moments when life feels like a loop, when situations collapse in the same way over and over, when people appear in your path carrying familiar emotional signatures, none of this is random. Synchronicities aren't coincidences. They are feedback. Déjà vu isn't a glitch, it's recognition. Sudden shifts in energy, unexpected endings, strange alignments at exactly the right time. These are signs that your consciousness is trying to wake you up. They are the quantum field nudging you out of the emotional simulation your subconscious built without your permission. Every time you ignore an emotion, reality intensifies it, not to punish you, but to show you what still holds power over your vibration. Every time you avoid a truth, the world rearranges itself to bring that truth closer. And the more aware you become, the more obvious these patterns get. You start seeing the cracks in the version of reality you once believed was solid. Your perception expands, and with it, the illusion begins to break. That's the moment you realize the world hasn't been working against you. It has been responding to you. This space exists so you don't have to navigate that awakening blind. If these words feel like they're speaking directly to your experience, if they resonate with something deep in your subconscious, consider connecting with this community in a conscious way. Leave a comment sharing a moment where your reality seemed to mirror a feeling you didn't fully understand, or simply write, "I refuse repetition," if you're ready to break the cycles created by old emotions. Like the video if this message aligns with what you've been sensing. Subscribe if you want to keep expanding your awareness with people who are moving through the same shift. Engagement here isn't about numbers. It is part of strengthening a field where awakening becomes easier, clearer, and more accessible. And as you sit with this recognition, understand that this is just the beginning. Because once you see the cracks, you can no longer unsee them. What comes next is the moment your old reality begins to fall apart, not as destruction, but as revelation. And in the next part of this journey, you will understand why everything has been rearranging itself around you with such intensity. He didn't realize it at first, but the collapse he feared was actually the moment his perception finally aligned with the truth of how reality works. As his consciousness expanded, the world he once believed was solid began to respond with absolute precision. Every piece of his life that fell apart did so because it no longer matched the vibration he was becoming. The collapse wasn't punishment. It was the quantum field recalibrating itself around a new frequency, and the moment he understood that, everything changed. He saw that the hidden architecture of his life had always been shaped from the inside out. Every emotion he avoided had written part of the script he was forced to live. Every belief he inherited had formed walls around possibilities he could never reach. Every wound he buried had silently programmed the subconscious mind that created his version of the world. And when he finally stopped resisting the truth, when he allowed the old layers of himself to fall away, he noticed something extraordinary happening. The world started to reorganize itself, not slowly, not subtly, but with the unmistakable force of a spiritual shift. People who had been connected to his old identity drifted away. Circumstances that once felt stable suddenly collapsed. Plans that seemed certain dissolved overnight. And what looked like chaos from the outside was, in reality, the collapse of the matrix he had lived inside for years. It wasn't destruction, it was revelation. The moment he realized that reality only holds power over you as long as you believe it is separate from you. When gratitude replaced fear, even briefly, the simulation began to rewrite itself. Every painful moment he had ever lived suddenly made sense, not as suffering but as code, information meant to awaken him from within the illusion. You felt this too. Those moments where your life seems to fall apart for no reason, when relationships end unexpectedly, when paths close without warning, when opportunities dissolve just when you thought you were finally moving forward. It's tempting to call it bad luck or coincidence, but nothing about consciousness works that way. What you're experiencing is the collapse of an outdated version of your reality, a version created by emotions you no longer align with, a version of yourself you've already outgrown. Awakening is not gentle. It breaks before it builds. It dissolves before it reveals. It strips away everything that can't follow you into your next level of awareness. And the moment you begin to see that, everything inside you shifts. You stop fighting the collapse and start listening to what it's trying to show you. You begin to understand that the discomfort is not the end of something. It's the beginning of you stepping into who you truly are beneath the noise. If any part of this mirrors what you've been living, take a breath and acknowledge it. You're not losing your life. You're shedding the version of yourself that was built on fear, guilt, and limitation. And if this message resonates with that deeper part of your consciousness, consider grounding your presence here. Engage with this space in a conscious way. Leave a comment, even a simple, "I am ready for the new," as a way of anchoring the vibration of your transformation, like the video if it aligns with your inner truth. Subscribe if you want to keep expanding your awareness with a community that understands this journey. This isn't about numbers, it's about coherence, about strengthening a field where awakening becomes clearer and more accessible for everyone. And as you hold this awareness, remember that what you've seen so far is only the beginning. Because once the old world cracks open, something else begins to rise from beneath it. Something deeper, something undeniable, something calling you forward with a frequency you can no longer ignore. He began to understand that the collapse wasn't the end of anything. It was the beginning of a deeper perception rising inside him. Once the old layers of his identity faded, he could finally sense a frequency that had always been there, quietly pulsing beneath the noise. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was subtle, almost delicate, like a soft vibration humming behind his thoughts, guiding his awareness towards something he couldn't yet name. And as he listened to that inner shift, he realized that the quantum field had never stopped communicating with him. He simply wasn't attuned to recognize its language. The more his consciousness expanded, the more he felt that gentle pull, a pull that didn't come from the outside world, but from somewhere within his own energy, somewhere beyond his familiar sense of self. This was the moment he understood that reality wasn't a fixed environment, but a mirror reflecting every layer of perception he carried. When he changed internally, everything around him responded. When he let go of old fear, the world softened. When he leaned into clarity, pathways opened. When he honored his intuition, synchronicities multiplied. And beneath all of this movement, there was something deeper calling him forward, something that felt older than his memories, older than his beliefs, older than the story he had been living. It felt like a quiet intelligence rising from within the subconscious mind, nudging him toward a purpose he could sense, but not yet define. You felt that same pull, maybe not in words, but in energy. It's the feeling that your life is shifting into a new frequency without your permission. The feeling that certain things no longer resonate, even if you can't explain why. The sense that your inner voice isn't asking anymore, it's directing. And even when you try to ignore it, it returns not as noise but as recognition. That is the signature of a spiritual awakening. It is the field reorganizing itself around the expansion of your consciousness. It is the hidden reality beneath your life, revealing itself one vibration at a time. That's why familiar environments suddenly feel foreign, why old desires fade without warning, why conversations that once felt comfortable now feel shallow or misaligned. It's not disconnection, it's recalibration. Your perception is tuning into subtler frequencies, and as your awareness sharpens, the world you once knew begins to feel too small. This isn't a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that you're outgrowing the version of reality you were taught to accept. And the deeper you move into this expansion, the more you'll sense that you are being guided towards something waiting beyond the surface of your life. The truth is, the calling you feel isn't external. It's the emergence of your higher consciousness pressing against the boundaries of your old identity. It's the energy of who you are becoming, reaching into the present moment. And once you feel that, the unmistakable pull of something larger than your thoughts, you can never fully return to who you were. You're standing in the doorway between the self you've known and the self you were always meant to become. And even though you can't see the full path yet, you can feel it. You can feel the shift in vibration. You can feel the rise in frequency. You can feel the subtle movement inside you that refuses to fade. If these words resonate with your inner landscape, let your presence be felt here. Share a comment that reflects where you are in this awakening. You can write, "I awaken," or "I see beyond," or "I am expanding." Your words anchor your energy, strengthen this field, and help others recognize their own transformation reflected through yours. What comes next will take you even deeper into the truth behind the calling you've been sensing, a truth that has been waiting to reveal itself the moment your consciousness reached this point. And as you stand in this space between who you were and who you are becoming, it's important to anchor what you felt here. Awakening doesn't happen in a single moment. It unfolds through intention, awareness, and continuity. If something within you shifted while listening to this message, don't let it fade when the video ends. Support this journey consciously. When you like this video, when you subscribe, when you share it with someone who might be moving through their own awakening, you're not just helping the channel, you're expanding a field of awareness that allows more people to access the kind of knowledge that transforms perception, vibration, and consciousness. Engagement here is not about numbers, it's about creating coherence, about strengthening a space where people who feel the same calling can finally recognize themselves. If these words resonated with you, take a moment to leave a comment that reflects your inner state. You can write "I awaken" or "I continue" or "I see beyond." These small declarations help ground your experience and signal to others that they are not alone in what they're feeling. Your presence matters. Your voice matters. And your energy contributes to the collective awakening we are building together. Now breathe for a moment and trust the path unfolding before you, because the next step of this journey takes us deeper into the truth behind that inner calling you've been sensing. In the next video, we'll explore the real reason this feeling follows you, why it grows stronger when you try to ignore it, and what it's trying to reveal about your life. So when you're ready, move forward. Click on the next video. The door is open, and what you're about to discover is the peace your consciousness has been waiting to remember.